Our Town of Sangerville Board of Selectmen meeting, May 2nd, 2018, and I have a time of 5:03. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving to item 2, approval of the minutes, April 4th, 2018, and minutes April 25th, 2018.
Make a motion to approve both.
Second.
Those in favor? It's unanimous. Item 3, review of treasurer's warrants, payroll 60, accounts payable 56, 57, 58, 59, and 61.
I'll make a motion to approve payroll, item 3A, payrolls number 60, B, accounts payable number 56, 57, 58, 59, 61.
Second.
Those in favor? It's unanimous. Open session, we have no guests today. Selectmen's concerns, item 5.
Still getting compliments about the town meeting. Really like the evenings.
That's good.
Good. Very good.
I think you all got the email, but I just think it's probably worth mentioning on the record that we had a contractor that helped out a citizen, had a drainage problem. Mr. Lawson went and saw Mr. Hall. I guess his basement has been flooding. Initially, Mr. Hall thought it might have had to do with some of the ditching work that we did. Turns out it wasn't, and he was really appreciative that Mr. Lawson helped him find that drainage. So it's good to have a happy citizen.
That's right, very good.
Anything further? Item 6, road committee reports.
I met with the road committee on Monday and Phil Curtis on Tuesday. So I took the same listing to the road committee that I had brought to you guys on the last meeting and pointed out the same 5 top topics that are higher priority than the others. So their thoughts on the Gray Road, rebuild it, the 1,600 feet. It is approximately that between Lentini's and just beyond where the turnaround is going to be. We're going to get 1,000 yards of gravel from Mr. Burgess. He's donated that. And they feel that probably 300 or 400 more yards of gravel are going to be needed for that. Now the gravel that's been donated is bank run. I talked to Mr. Burgess yesterday and he said he's done some research and the tailings, what they get, if they do the screening and they get the bigger chunks out, that those are more valuable than the bank run. So he's going to ask Mr. Campbell if we can actually screen it so we can have either a 4 minus, a 6 minus, 4 minus, or 3 minus, instead of just bank run. I did go down and look at the gravel yesterday, and I don't know what part of the pit we're taking it from. So there were 2 sections. I've got some pictures, but we'll see. I'll have to meet with Mr. Campbell and see what he wants. On the McFeeters Road, we talked about prepping, elevating, start at the power line and go towards town. I think that's the section that you guys had talked about, elevating that a little bit. When I talked to Mr. Curtis yesterday, if you go from the power lines towards Parkman, you'll notice that the road slants like this, and he suggested also doing that because when you fill that with your, he says you want to straighten your road before you try to pave it. So that was his suggestion on that part of it. They would like to shim the whole 2.2 miles of the Silvers Mills Road. And so I questioned him about that part in front of Dan Hall's where we have discussed whether we're going to elevate that or what we want to do with that. Their opinion, the road committee's opinion is shim it. I said, you're talking 8 inches of shim in spots.
Did Phil see that?
And so I took Phil out yesterday, and he said, you should build a foot. And I questioned him, well, what if we remove it and rebuild it? And he said, if you want, you have to pay to have it removed. So he says, it's not bad base. He said, you're better off to build on top of it because you're gonna not have to spend so much
So
money.
break it up again.
So break it up, form it, and then put a foot of gravel on it. And that was his opinion on that.
It would be interesting that if you did the math of what it would cost you for the excavator to break that up, to add the foot of gravel, if you just shimmed it, what the difference would be.
It also would be interesting what the difference would be in terms of, at least Phil's opinion, of durability. Is one a better product?
Correct.
I think Phil's giving you advice to do that because he thinks it's a better product. Is that, or was he basing it on budgetary concerns?
More budgetary, because I told him, our budgetary, he says pavement is a better, it's a better product because it's,
Even though we'd have to, like you said, in some cases, shim 8, 9, 10 inches.
but he doesn't like the idea of shimming 8 or 9 or 10 inches. I mean, he just says you would, because it's gonna, I don't know. He said he'd meet with you.
If you drive on the road down by Irvin's, that section, where Irvin McNaughton lives on the flat before you get to my house,
Okay.
that's got 8 or 9 inches of shim in it, that's 10, 11 years old.
Is it?
Yeah, that end was just as bad when they shimmed that over, so.
So that was that spot. I took him down to look at the culvert that's in question by Jerry Kazmierzak's. And I said, if we remove it or if we don't remove it? He said, your choice. He said, you could see that there is water that is going into and it is draining across through the culvert. He says, it's a good culvert. He said, absolutely. He said, that culvert will last. He said, the biggest problem you have by looking at the pavement is what's over the culvert. So his suggestion was remove down to the top of the culvert, and again, he said, your choice. You can break it up and smooth it, but to mix it so that it's all, or you can remove it and put new stuff in and compact it. School of thought used to be replace with what you remove. The new school of thought is use the new stuff. He said he's seen it done both ways, and both ways it's worked. But he says if you start at the culvert and taper 50 feet both ways, he said you're going to get more of the gentler
50 feet?
both ways.
What did we do last year, 2?
No, 4, maybe.
No,
I mean, the whole
going-
thing is 4,
That's what I'm
yeah.
saying, 2 feet, we didn't go 2 feet both ways.
No, we didn't. We didn't. But this is his thought on just fixing that little section, or you can just leave it and shim and pave. So,
The culvert in front of the Kazmierzak's what is it? Is it sticking out of the ground?
It's on top of the hill.
Oh.
It's not really in a point of way you need a culvert.
But it is moving water.
it is moving water, and the road committee feels that they'd like to see you leave it, but if you choose to move it, they would rather you take that culvert and move it down to where that short culvert is. That's that steel pipe, which is not long enough.
Is it creating a problem?
Oh, it's a hell of a, I mean, it's sucks to drive over it.
So is it, I guess
And we paved it I mean, we've already put more money into this culvert than if we would have just ripped it out 10 years ago.
so the culvert, the road rises around it every year? Is that what's going
That's
on?
one of them.
In the
that-
wintertime, it was like this.
Yeah, I mean,
And I
every year
had
we were
it-
filling it, or last year that was
I
where you
put
put a
some-
lot of coal patch over that, cause it
Yeah.
was such a bad hit.
And it was even worse in the winter.
Mhm.
But this year, talking with both Steve and Phil, the frost was worse this year than it has been in
Sure.
years past. So hopefully we don't have as much. So those are your options on those two culverts there. We talked, I think that was it. Yeah, that was all we talked about.
If you go look at this culvert, you're gonna say, we don't need this culvert.
Yeah, well,
But you can see it is moving water.
yeah, but that water could be moved further down the hill. I guess it would.
Down to the next culvert.
Right.
Well, but if you look at your ditch though, your ditch has ledge in it. And so it does have obstacle to get to the next culvert. Not that it's a big deal because it's a good
There we go.
deep ditch.
Yeah,
Again, again, it's up to you.
I mean, there's not enough ledge so that even under the worst conditions, can you imagine the water being pushed out on the road?
Never.
No,
Because I know, I mean, we had some on the French's Mills Road that were horrible, and now they're fine again. But the road on each side comes up when the frost is in there, and
Yeah.
and it
well,
comes
and
back
that's
down.
it, so if you even remove the culvert, are you even gonna be really, quote, fixing the problem?
Right, is it still gonna do it with the new material that we put in there? I
Yeah,
don't know,
that-
I
it
don't
could.
know.
It could.
It
yeah.
could, but you're never gonna have a culvert, you gotta talk about it again, and you're never gonna have a culvert that's gonna pop up.
Is it a metal cover or plastic cover?
metal.
It's metal.
So you might be able to reuse it.
Well, that's what the
saying.
road committee
Yeah.
said, take that culvert and move it down to where the other,
The short
the
culvert.
short
okay.
culvert is.
Oh, okay, which needs to be addressed anyway.
They would like to have that addressed before we do our paving.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you,
Well, then maybe it's a
yeah.
no-brainer.
So,
Because if we don't use this culvert for that purpose, we're gonna put another one down there where they wanna put it. So it sounds like this could be 6 on one, half a dozen the other. I'll go look at it, and I drive through there, I'll look.
It's
at it.
it's kinda like the same one on top of the hill at French's Mills that we took out and didn't replace
Yeah,
when we paved over there.
And
Yeah.
how did that, how has that fared?
You never know that there's ever.
because you're at the top of the hill, your
Yeah.
volume is not there.
Right,
I mean, it's like this one, it is flowing a little bit of water, but it's because it's got a culvert in it. Once we take the culvert out, you're not talking that much water that's gonna make any difference going down to the next culvert.
I noticed one of the things that Steve did over there that I don't know that we've done before, but he put those riprap, I call them barriers or dams.
bridges, yep.
That makes a big difference.
Yes,
Really,
it stops the flow to go the whole length.
Yeah.
And it directs them into, yes,
and keeps the velocity down.
yes.
Eric did that on the Gray Road.
Is that right?
Yeah, when he ditched over there too.
It's worth doing. I'm guessing, I mean, it looks it.
Well, it solves on your erosion, because if you don't slow it down, that's where you're gonna get your trenching and.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
And I took Phil up to look at the Gray Road, and we talked about how wide do we want it, 16 feet, 18 feet. We talked about the trees. Now, I didn't actually drive down that with him because you could see that it was pretty muddy and ruts. And his theory is if there are trees there that could become a deadly fixed object, then we should remove them, because are you gonna sit in a court of law and say, I didn't remove them because I didn't wanna, I was being nice to the landowner and I didn't wanna cut his trees.
My
So,
thing is, the road is supposed to be so wide,
right,
whatever rod that is, that's what we have to do.
I
Yeah, I would-
believe it's a 3-rod.
I would address it just right by the book.
That's what I would think.
Yeah.
And we're gonna make a considerable investment up there, we might as well do it correctly.
right.
Yeah,
And I honestly, I mean, for what those trees are, I would think if Toby gets involved in that, he would probably just cut them. Get them out of there.
They have a pretty good woods operation, I don't think they're gonna be,
They do, but I mean, there's a lot of nice logs in those. I mean, if we have the trees cut, we're not in that market, we're in the market of
Cutting
getting them out of the way. If those guys go up there and cut those trees,
but we need to tell them what you
Yeah.
need cut. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's the first thing.
And the stumps have to be removed, correct?
I think there might be a few of them that you're gonna want to remove. If they don't cut them low enough, you're gonna have to.
But if you've got an excavator up there working, you'd be able to pull the stumps.
I don't know if you probably are gonna need it. The only reason why you would have to is if there's any big stumps to pull. From I know in every conversation in the past, it was, once the trees were out of the way, you probably could reshape that with a dozer, the whole project, and not even have an excavator up there.
Well,
But you don't know what you're gonna get into until you get going.
No.
so.
Right, right. So those are some projects that we need to consider how we're gonna go about doing it. Are we gonna work with our public works, or are we gonna work with contractors on all of this stuff? So that's food for thought. And
I mean, it's self-evident that it's. gonna
well,
be
like the
done
Gray
right.
Road, I think we should be able to not contract, find our own public works, and use local. Some of the bigger projects, rebuilding, I don't know, and paving, obviously, we're using contractors, but,
Well, you have a bulldozer operator that we can run a bulldozer.
yeah, I do.
He's on the road committee.
So,
Well, I have, and Lance said he's gonna
Yep.
run his bulldozer on the Gray Road too. So, I mean, I have two.
Oh, if that's, yeah,
Right.
if
So, I
any
mean,
public
that's-
assistance would be great.
Right.
Yes,
right,
I totally agree with that, yep.
Right, so. And I did an interview Monday. I'm waiting. He did not supply me with an application to check references, so as soon as that comes in, I will check references, and hopefully by Monday, I will have an employee that will fit our needs
Good.
and our flexibility.
That's good.
Sounds like a fit.
So where did we end up on paving? Because, I mean, if we're gonna do that, we won't need to go, right?
Oh, I have it down here on E,
Okay.
old business E.
Okay. So are we done with
Yes.
the road commissioner's report?
Yes.
Item 7, new business. A, trash ordinance.
I
Patty
forgot to
Davis.
make you a copy. We have a nuisance ordinance of trash. I mean, it's really something that doesn't have a lot of teeth in it because it's subjective. You know, if this person has trash, but who's, you know, depends on how much trash they have, you know, and the neighbor could say, well, that's a lot of trash, and this neighbor could say,
Yep.
well, that's not much trash at all. So it's very subjective. Patty Davis come in and she was complaining about the neighbor across the street from her who has dumped used tires, right directly across from her. We know that down by George's place, Braley has trash there. I got a call this afternoon right by the post office that Carfagno, is that it? She's got like 5 or 6, 8 bags of trash sitting out beside the road, but she doesn't have trash pickup. We have a trash ordinance, but, you know, like I said,
We
it
don't
doesn't,
have
it's not it's a nuisance ordinance.
Correct, so I remember this whole conversation with nuisance. If you feel that my flowers are a nuisance,
Yeah.
that applies to this ordinance.
Correct.
So that is how subjectively
Whoa.
written this is.
Wow.
So
yeah.
it is,
There's no teeth, it's so vague.
it's whatever
But
you
if-
feel is an issue.
But if you've got literally garbage piled up on your front lawn, that's, again, it's subjective, but I think it will hold. If your code enforcement officer goes and says, I'm sorry, but you have to remove that trash, we've got an ordinance, he can cite him for it.
I think also, I can, as local health officer, I have some teeth, not as much as the code enforcement, but I can say, you're calling rats, we have evidence of
I
rats.
think you got more say.
I don't, because I cannot go into their home, whereas code enforcement legally can enter their
Can
premises.
you levy a fine?
I can, I can, if I clean the trash, do a supplemental tax on their property taxes, and
Right, but what code enforcement's able to do, if I understand, because George was on, he can hit them, you know, it's
Correct.
this for the first offense, and it's this every single day that it sits here.
Right.
It gets
Right.
expensive fast.
Financial.
right, he can do that, I can't do that.
Okay.
So I would like to work with George and start by just writing the letter and saying, you know, you need to pick it
Oh,
up.
yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Well,
it's a
we were
long
told last year
process.
that he doesn't want to enforce this.
Not the nuisance ordinance, because again, it's so subjective, but if we go through and it's a health issue, then hopefully we can have a little more teeth with that.
So is George back?
I'm not 100% sure. He has not contacted me to let me know he's back. I've heard people say they think he's back, they heard he was back, but I have not had direct contact with George.
Okay. And does he usually touch base? I don't remember.
Either an email or a
Okay.
phone call, or
Okay.
he'll stop in.
Is he appointed now, so he is our code enforcement for this current year?
I have done the appointment. He's not been in to sign it, obviously.
I think maybe we ought to talk with him.
Or, yeah,
Take that ordinance out, so we all can read it again, and let's hear his objections and concerns about it. And before we go reinventing the wheel
I
again.
don't want a new ordinance, I would rather.
No,
That's the other piece, if there's nothing to stand on with the ordinance that we have, then to me, we either need to get that amended, or, I mean.
Get rid of it.
Get rid of it. But the problem is, and this is the bigger problem that I feel that we have, when that ordinance that we have went to town meeting, our code enforcement was in Florida. He couldn't, there was no presence at town meeting for him to make a stance that it wasn't worth writing or weren't worth voting on.
Did the planning board design that ordinance?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
They did.
Did it take quite a while? I'm guessing it did. So, I mean, it's a fairly thoughtful
Right,
process.
yep, yes.
And was probably
Yes.
based on other towns, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And George must have been involved in it.
Yes, he was.
Because when
But-
I was there, George would give examples of
Right.
citing
so-
people.
That's right.
In fact, he said, truth is, he very rarely has to summons anybody because he
Right.
goes and takes pictures
Right,
and everything happens right away after that.
right.
I thought he was fairly positive about,
How
yeah, that
successful
tool.
he is.
right.
At,
So I would love to talk to him again.
right.
Because we did have a couple of houses, and you mentioned one of them that he was actively working on, and then it stopped. He never pursued this any further. It never.
Right. But did he state he didn't want to pursue those?
Isn't
Because
that
I never
was-
got that feeling.
I never got that
Yeah,
feeling
no,
when I was
somebody
with
said
him
on
on
the
the planning
planning
board.
board. I
Correct,
never
but
got
there
that.
was a statement made last year. I can't remember when it was, whether or not it was with you or which person was here at the time. But somebody made a reference that he didn't want to enforce this.
I think,
Huh.
rather than speculate,
Yeah, right.
let's invite him in.
Yeah. See if he's back.
And we'll review our ordinance and we'll tie that into, because it seems like when we get to garbage, it's pretty easy. I gotta believe it.
Right.
I'd be very surprised if George doesn't say, oh yeah, I
gotta
can
be
enforce
cleaned up.
garbage.
Yeah.
Now, garbage is somewhat subjective, but literally bags of trash like we had while you were gone, that was,
I don't disagree with you. I just,
so.
whatever we need to do, I just want to make it so it's.
And if we don't have a current mechanism to address garbage, then I would agree we should. But let's see what we got.
Okay.
So we'll see if he's back, and then
His cell phone is right on the website.
His cell phone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's supposed to have somebody, if he's not here, he's supposed to have a backup.
yep.
Yeah, there is I think it's on the website, isn't it? At the backup.
No, I didn't see that. I saw his cell
It's
phone.
in the town report. Then perhaps.
Okay.
But I definitely think that she has the right idea. I just think we need to use the ordinance we got. And
She meaning Patty Davis.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, there's no excuse for that.
No.
No, I mean, you can drive around the whole town and it's
amazing.
It's quite surprising.
Oh, especially
There's a
now
lot
that
of
the
trash.
snow's
Well,
all gone.
that call, I was looking because the reference was a mobile home with a trailer outside with trash in it.
yeah.
And there's literally 3 trailers
Correct.
on East Sangerville
I
Road.
was like multiple
With
targets.
trailers with trash in it. So you gotta narrow this down a little bit more than that, which kind of surprised me because I didn't think that would be the.
There is a lot of trash that
Now,
just sits.
I think
there
there's,
right now.
it appears, and this is speculation, that there's a strategy among some homeowners that I basically want to throw this outside all winter, it's frozen.
Yeah.
And then once
Yeah.
it gets warm, I'll take one trip to the dump.
Oh.
Because the house in question, he literally was throwing it all in a utility trailer. He was ready to go. And that's what he did that weekend. The chief spoke to him and
And he hauled it off.
It was gone.
It's gone. Oh.
so,
I'll tell you, I hate going to the dump. We switched over to having a little private dumpster of our own at our house. It's very economical and it's nice. It's out of
Is it
sight.
a bolsters or?
Yes.
Interesting.
they pick ours up every week. It's like
Really?
$5. It's,
Really?
yeah, it's well worth it.
Wow.
And they're very accommodating.
Yeah.
And they're out of.
They're out of Fairfield, I believe.
Pittsfield.
Pittsfield,
It's
is that?
backwards, you get out Route 100,
Quite-
Burnham.
Wow.
Burnham.
Yep, when you drive down
Wow.
100, you
Yep.
drive by their office,
Wow.
so. And I know there's trash busters,
You're
or
right.
out of St.
Right.
Albans or
Yep.
whatever, they
Yeah.
do the same thing.
Yep. Yep.
But, I mean, so there is a lot of options in the area for people to use, and it's not a whole lot of money.
And to say nothing about it's free to just take it, isn't
the
it free to
dump.
take it to the,
Absolutely.
To the
dump.
Dover.
yeah.
Yes.
Do you need a sticker?
Yes.
No, well.
But it's a free sticker.
It's a free
Right.
sticker. You just come
when
in
you
and
register
they'll,
your car, you get your sticker.
so there's really no excuses.
No. Unless you don't have transportation to Dover.
Well, somehow you got all those groceries.
Right.
Okay. Moving on to item B, Historical Society meeting.
Tom Carone came in, and he asked, they're interested in putting an elevator in this building so that they can use the second floor again. Because you can't use the second floor because you don't have proper ADA compliance. He would like to meet with the board and Chris Winstead and the Historical Society to see if there's some way to move forward with this project.
Okay.
And they're also having a plant sale coming up, so.
Anything more on that?
No, I left my notes on there.
Okay. So he's gonna be on the agenda upcoming,
To speak with us.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Item C, a cleanup day. May 12th?
I've had several people call and ask about cleanup day. There's a guy, I don't know what his name is, he works down at Dexter trash place. But he lives in Sangerville and he says he drives 23 and he has permission to whatever gets picked up on Route 23, he can put in his truck and he would take it to Dexter for free. But we have to.
I'd rather look at the trash and see whose name on it and call the cops and get them fined.
Well, I mean, it could be a coffee cup or a diaper. I mean, you don't know what it is. But also like the sand, getting the sand off the lawn of like this facility. So I've had several people ask, and I emailed Rhonda and Jason to ask if the rec department would work on setting up a cleanup day.
So people put out things and we clean it up?
But this is where this stopped. Because what this started out being was a nice cleanup day, and the town provided like a mini barbecue, hot dog, burger, whatever afterwards, and cold drinks. People would volunteer, and you would, if I volunteered to do Silver's Mills, I would drive down Silver's Mills, pick up any trash or bottles, and collect all of that, bring it back, would have a centralized place for
With a
somebody to
dump
haul it
truck.
off.
Oh, I see.
And then you'd have a barbecue afterwards as a thank you for anybody that wanted to help, which to me, that's what a cleanup day is supposed to be. But then it got expanded into
People's mattresses.
Sure, we were picking up tires,
Car batteries, televisions.
Mini
appliances.
fridges.
We were rounding the 5,500, and then when we went to that extreme, that ended all of the volunteers helping.
Sure.
So it ended up being, the last time it was done, it was me and a couple of the town employees, Tom Carone. We went around and did it. We were 4 hours picking up tires and appliances and hauling them to the dump for people.
And, I mean, I know there is a day at the dump coming up where you can bring furniture.
That's the day they did it.
Oh, okay,
It's
so they
Saturday.
dovetail it with that.
Sure.
Okay.
So people would basically leave a list, so you had a list of addresses, and we were running around picking all this stuff up.
Oh, no,
That's not a service,
That's why, that's
That's
where.
what-
Other
Morphed
towns do this,
into
but they have a
that.
robust public works department, they're putting a bunch of guys on
Sure.
big
Yeah,
trucks.
yeah, and they just go,
we're not-
and that's a public service.
Correct.
We're just not.
No.
I'm just talking raking and picking up, straight out the window
I
trash.
have no problem. I mean, I think that would be great if we could.
Yeah, I do make
And I mean,
feeders.
if we could have, I'd volunteer to bring a grill if we needed, and if we wanted to do something like that for people that would volunteer, but
Is that what the $200 in the volunteer day is supposed to be for?
I believe so,
Something like
yes.
that? Alright. So anyway, I emailed them this afternoon to see if they're interested in setting something up for that. Just brief, not, because that free day at Dover is this Saturday.
Oh.
And I've posted that on the door.
So tomorrow. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Saturday.
You're wishing this week.
May
away.
5th,
No,
May
I-
5th.
I'm leaving.
I didn't
tomorrow.
say
That's
call me
fine.
if you have it, I said, it's free, you can take it down
Okay.
there.
And they'll take anything.
No.
No, they
No.
have a specific,
Yeah.
It's a list.
it's 4
like-
tires,
Yeah.
Okay.
One-
Without the
Up to a
vans.
certain- up to a
One
certain
couch.
size.
two upholstered
Sofas.
furnitures,
Oh, okay.
2 refrigerators or air
How
conditioners.
many gallons of old
And 2
paint?
TVs or, computer monitors, and that's it.
Okay.
I mean, but regular
No
trash
mattresses.
is, no, the mattresses was not on the list.
They'll
So-
take it, but they're gonna charge you. Okay, well,
And I believe it's the same as a chair, as a mattress. It's so much for.
Really?
one.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what it is?
It was-
Because I guess if you take like a piece of furniture or something, you have to like cut the,
Take it
No,
apart.
they'll-
Yes,
it's
yes.
like $5 if you don't.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
That's all it is. I mean,
Oh.
if you take it all apart, it's free. If you don't take it apart, they charge you, I can't remember, it's
Yeah,
like
cause
5 or-
one piece goes in the metal pile.
Oh, yeah, and the wood.
Yeah.
So in theory is you're paying the $5 or $10 for the labor the
Right.
town is incurring, or the transfer stations are, they're gonna have one of their guys do it. So you have to pay that $5 or $10 fee,
Right,
so.
okay.
Okay. Moving on to item 8, old business. Plow contract needs signatures. I think we've all signed it.
Yep.
B, village cemetery update.
So I called Dover Soil and Conservation District, and they said to call DEP because I would have to have, because it's shoreline zoning. First she said, I told her it's trees. I said the trees are getting tall and the roots are, breaking away and they're falling over and it's eroding the bank because the trees. And she was like, well, cut the trees. And I said, but it's shoreline zoning. It's on the bank. Oh, she says, you'll have to call DEP. And I'm like, yes, I know. But, we need funds for that. Can we have
Cemetery.
assistance for that? It's a cemetery. And so I called DEP, Jim Byer in Bangor, and he said, call Soil and Conservation.
Oh, here we go.
And he says, I'll give you a
Pass
permit
the
by
buck.
rule, which is what you need to work with. He said, but he has to have a design that is a retaining wall for.
This
So
is Army
it's-
Corps of
this
Engineers
is-
stuff.
Here we go.
Yes, but then he said,
Ta-da.
well, no, he said, no, it's not Army Corps of Engineers. He sent me back to the Soil and Conservation, who sent me, he called it something different, so I ended up calling Skowhegan. Come to find out, it's the same office as the one that I had called in Dover, but he gave me a name of a person to call, so I called that person as a program coordinator or something.
Sure.
So, we're working on it.
Is someone,
It's going to
do you
be-
think someone's gonna come look at it?
That guy has not called me back
Okay.
from that.
Cause until they see it, they're
Yeah,
not
they
gonna
need to-
appreciate it.
they
And I
need to come
did,
see it.
I did take pictures and I sent them to Jim Byer, and he says, cause I don't know, my pictures, it shows the cemetery, and the wall like this, and so it's, but he seems to think the picture's like this, and he says it looks like runoff from the cemetery, and I'm like,
Like I said,
Oh.
you
until they
weren't
see it,
looking
they're
at the
not-
Yeah.
same pictures that
Yeah.
I took.
You really need to stand
And
there.
In fact,
You
you
do.
can stand in Guilford and look across the river and get a better impression of what is actually going on there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
There's
material
a lot
going
of
down that
trees
hill.
down
Yeah.
too, not just the ones where that
Nope.
cutout is, there are a lot of trees
Well,
coming down.
I went up the other night and looked to see the bad spot, and we now have a new bad spot starting down a little bit further. That's the trees have gone, and that's starting to erode away now.
Oh,
So I
Is
mean,
that
it
in the
really-
cemetery as well, or is it down by Haley's, closer
It's
to
down
Haley's?
closer to Haley's, but it's almost like where the road swings right to come back out. It's right in that stretch.
Oh, okay.
It's still
just
very
too steep.
close.
Yeah,
It's,
Yeah.
and I'm sure it would happen whether there's a cemetery there or not.
right, oh,
Oh,
yeah.
sure.
It's
Yep,
just
yep.
what's happening.
Yeah,
I think that whole bank has relied on the vegetation to holding it, and once those trees start to go and you start getting a little bit of dirt.
oh yeah, you get
exposed,
one and then it's a cascade.
Yeah, and it's tearing a hole that,
Right.
has been filled for 100 years.
That's right.
So,
yeah.
It's
It's
a
like
big project.
dominoes.
So I will keep working on
Okay.
that, but I did want to let you know that I have started contacting
I think
some
you're just gonna
people.
end up in a big phone, what you're doing, bouncing around.
Round and around.
Until you can find a right person that's, has an interest, or,
Right,
I think if you could get somebody to physically look at it, and then,
Realize the magnitude
yeah.
yeah.
and, yeah, the breadth and depth of the,
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, when it shows up in the Observer, and there's pictures of that, I mean, the erosion is quite impressive when you, if you haven't noticed it, I mean.
oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Okay, grading.
So you wanted me to get other prices. I had shared with you the price that Bailey's had given was the state rate 94.17 or something an hour. Cutting shoulders and leveling gravel was additional time at the same rate. I talked to Steve on Lawson to see if he would alter his price that he had submitted last fall. 'cause he uses the teeth. The Bailey's, oh, I didn't clarify with Bailey's on the same. But Steve was 130 for the teeth. And Chris Newt texted me yesterday. He said he hoped to have his grader operating yesterday or this morning, and he's $75 an hour. And Roger Wyman never answered. I called twice. The first time I left a message. The second time I got the answer machine, and I'd already left a message and didn't get a return call, so I didn't leave a second message. So those are the people that,
So we have Bailey, Lawson, and Newt.
yes. And Lawson said, when I asked him if he would alter his price, he withdrew his bid. So.
Okay.
I haven't, and I remember the mile, I think Bailey was $500 a mile, and Lawson was $780 a mile. I don't know what Chris is gonna be a mile.
He didn't state a mile price, he just an hour.
But what it doesn't matter because he withdrew his bid, but, it seems like I remember that, with teeth, you could travel at a higher rate. In other words, you could do a mile more quickly.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem to be translating that way in his mile price.
No.
Well, and he said, well, that's one of the things that he says it's very difficult to give a mile price, because you don't know, this mile could be really rough and this mile.
I appreciate that, yeah,
So
I get that.
when you go, that's why he says it's easier to give it by the hour price, because it's more consistent.
Right, okay.
When they use the teeth, when you saw them use the teeth, do they have to go over it as many times as when they're grading? It's just once.
Typically
So-
once anyway,
Oh, even when they're grading?
usually, I mean, he'll pull his shoulders, or he makes a row in the middle and then spreads it out again, but.
Right, I
Right.
mean, what you just said, that's all multiple.
Correct,
That's
and
not one
he's doing the
pass,
same thing
yeah.
with the teeth, it's just, you
It
know,
just
Done.
done.
One and
Goes-
done.
there are no potholes. They're cut out completely.
And the road committee would like to recommend we do not use a rock rake. They said it.
After, you mean after it's graded?
Yeah, typically you grade it and then you take your rock rake, and what it does is it puts all
Yeah.
your bigger
And
rocks and
for-
puts
The only
it in
thing
your
we-
berm or your shoulder and
We do need to be sure that whoever does it, whether it's Chris or Bailey, whoever, that they are responsible for picking up any
Rocks
large
that get
rocks,
popped.
because
Big rocks.
Public
Yeah.
Works did that in the past.
Yeah.
Those
Or
guys,
didn't. We got complaints.
but there will be no one else doing it, so, and I happened to be behind Bailey last year when he was over there in Knowlton Mills, and there were football-sized rocks.
Oh, yeah, it pops them right out.
And Public Works was rolling those off into the ditch, so he's gonna have to have somebody else do that.
Okay.
Now,
One
you
thing,
could have if your part-time guy pans out, that might be something that he does. We have a rake, but
we do.
it sounds like the
They
committee
don't
doesn't
wanna
wanna
use
use
The
it.
committee does not want
Well, what
to
we've
use
always
it.
done in the past is we grade then we run the rake through it, and we pull all the smaller, your surface rocks that you want out.
Yeah, so
Which
that's
isn't
not
what
good.
you want
That's
to
why
say
they,
behind.
Right,
Right.
yeah,
right.
yeah.
I don't have any objection to trying it their way,
Yeah, I mean,
but I do know those big rocks gotta get pulled.
the safety concern, yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And then something that we need to consider too is some of these roads will need some surface. And then we should consider, while the grader is going, tailgate some gravel in front of the grader, just to make sure we get some surface.
Sure.
That would be a good one for your road committee to help direct on that.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, we gotta be, whichever one of these two, cost or not, I mean, we gotta be grading within the next couple of weeks.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a May project. Okay,
Are you making this decision?
well, you've got it down to 2 people, and you don't know if Chris has even got equipment yet.
Correct.
So you're gonna make this decision, okay?
Those two people either way is under the 10.
Yeah.
Way under 10. Back to Silver's Mills paving.
On a D.
Oh, yeah,
Just
yep.
show, and maybe make a motion. This is the certificate of discontinuance. We have to file it with the registry of deeds. and it references our order of discontinuance, it references the town meeting, that it was approved at town meeting, and it's ready to go. I just wanna make sure you do, because even though it's been passed at town meeting, you have the opportunity to not, if you don't submit this, then the road is not considered discontinued.
This is basically the final step.
This is
Yeah,
the
yeah,
final
this
step.
is
This is
it.
step 7.
Closing
yeah.
the
We
loop.
don't wanna skip step seven.
No, we don't wanna say, oh, we did it. And
So
And then
let's
find
make
out 10
it,
years
let's
from
make
now.
it so.
Yes, please. So I make a motion to file the certificate of discontinuance for the Gray Road with the
Scotticoke Registry of Deeds.
Piscataquis Registry of Deeds.
Second.
Any further discussion? All's in favor? It's unanimous.
So is this the official last discussion? This is the final process, is my question.
Yes,
Okay.
That portion is discontinued,
So that portion, this is now complete.
yes,
once they registered it. But yeah,
Correct.
That's what I wanted to
We've done
hear.
everything that we
Yeah,
can do.
correct.
Completed.
Right, beginning to end. Nicely done.
Now, item E, Silver's Mills paving.
Yes. All right, so multiple aspects to this that we need to discuss. You wanted me to go back to the contractors and ask them if they were gonna hold their price if we are beyond June 30. Roundy's Paving came in with, they changed their price, but they actually dropped it on one of them. B&B went up, and everybody else remained the same. And I've carried it out here, this final column is 1 mile plus the 900-foot section. I can tell you that the road committee, there was one of these contractors that they would prefer not to use.
I don't,
Who is have you done the calculations?
Yes, right here.
Which is the lowest of the contractors?
Roundy's is the lowest,
Okay.
and Pike is the next to
I
lowest.
would say, where does Pike come in?
Next to lowest.
Yeah, because they did a good job for us last year.
Okay. So, okay. Alrighty.
We had some discussion last meeting about the 19 millimeter versus and its use, where it should be used, and could we just go with that? And was there any?
The 19, they will all recommend the 19 for the binder and the 12.5 for the shim.
Okay,
I didn't further discuss that with them because this, I just did via email on all of them about the pricing.
Yep.
But again, if you have questions, Phil Curtis said
I'll
he'd
say
be
I wonder
more
what
than
Phil's
willing
thoughts are, yeah.
to help answer your some questions if you want him to attend a board meeting before you make
when
any
it comes to
final.
paving, I would prefer to talk with Pike, see if one of them guys come in and educate us.
Okay,
I mean, that's what they do, they know more about paving than anybody.
okay.
They know these roads.
yeah, and if they're, I mean,
Not
we
that it's
had,
Phil, but I mean, that's what Pike does.
Right.
Pike
yeah,
was
that's-
very
yeah.
accommodative last year, and we were with them, and, I mean, if he's close, I'm kind of feeling like, I don't have a problem with that.
Right.
I mean, as long as it's reasonable.
Right.
Yeah, they worked well with us, you know, he
Yeah.
was,
Yeah,
You wanna list out how many miles of road Pike paves per year compared to any other contractor?
yeah,
They are the state experts, as far as my opinion would be,
yeah.
so I would like to,
And they're very competitive as far as these numbers are concerned.
so how much are we doing? If-
They're the next to the
Yeah,
cheapest.
yeah.
How much can we do with what we have budgeted?
Well, you can see this here is 1 mile plus the 900-foot section, 1 mile of shim only, 80,000 for Pike, 75 for Roundy's, Lanes was 83, and it goes up for the other two from there. That's 1 mile of shim. So that's gonna depend on if you wanna do the elevation down by Dan Hall's, how much of the
We
McFeeters
can
Road do
break
you
it
wanna
up, you think?
prep? I mean,
is that road 20 feet?
Is it driving surface?
Yeah,
I've calculated it at 20 feet, but I think it's 18.
but that's a huge difference
That-
over a mile.
Well, and I originally had calculated 18 as
That'd be
well.
worth just running the tape across that.
No, you're gonna get an extra
Yeah.
half mile.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Almost.
You take
It's,
2
Well,
feet.
it's
it's a
10%.
difference of 99 ton. No, 101 ton.
Well, no.
So it's 891 ton for 18 feet wide. It's 990 for
Oh, okay.
20 foot wide.
But we're gonna pave whatever we have, we're not gonna.
Right, we're not
gonna
making
roll
more
out there an
roads.
Extra foot wide. of
Right,
what's already there.
right.
Right.
What I was saying.
So the road committee would like you to start at the Brockway Mills end and go that way, but then that's where you have to make that decision. Are you going to do that section elevation? We also,
You're talking two different things. They wanna go from that end up shimming, not
correct,
paving,
shimming. Well, it's pavement,
but it's not the same.
not shim and overlay. They just want to shim.
Shim, correct.
They want to shim as far as you can go, and they are hoping that you get to Alder Brook. But that being said, you also have the culvert by Kazmerzak's and then the culvert that's down by Alder Brook. So if you, those three things you have to decide before you can do any paving.
But the paving at Hartford Lane headed in the opposite direction, that's on the menu.
As well.
Yeah, in fact, I felt that was top priority.
Getting rid of that dirt's priority. We're
Yeah.
not making more dirt until that's gone.
Well, and
Correct.
so,
So that's where we start. And now the question is how far we're gonna go.
And then where do we go to shim?
Right.
and do you elevate or do you, because we know that that section by Brockway Mills is the worst. As far as the ruts are the deepest there.
You're gonna flip a coin to me, is that
You think so?
you go there or you go between Kazmerzak's down by Alder Brook. I mean, that's pretty bad as well. So I mean, you're probably half an inch difference, it's not much difference.
I would really love to have Phil's input on what are the advantages of attacking that the way we did at the Hartford Lane project, busting that up and, raising it a little if we need to, versus just shimming.
But you're talking two different things. We did that because of water, we didn't do that because of the road, that wasn't the purpose.
Right.
Why we raised
But
that.
my concern there is that place that you and I were there on Saturday filling the hole, is that the material is corrupt. That if we shim over it, it's just gonna squash out again, but I don't know that.
Think of it the other way. All the ditching we just did, you're gonna fill it, because if you lift that road a foot, you're gonna have to widen it. So when you go up a foot, you're gonna have to go
That
2
is
feet
true.
out.
Your
We
shoulders
just
are gonna
filled
even
all
be
our
small.
ditches, and we gotta re-ditch that whole section of road.
Now, I wouldn't raise it, I just wonder if we wanna pull the muck that's in there out, but I don't know that.
You're paying to haul it off.
And not only that,
You're
I
paying
think,
double.
from what you saw, what's in that road? You try to take a foot
It's
out
rock.
of that, you're.
You
that's what I'm
actually,
saying.
down the middle is not a bad base as far as what it's there.
That's why it's still
That's-
sitting
yeah.
up, yeah. Well, that's what Chris said they did. Chris said they basically,
Well,
they had
it's-
rock in the middle, and they spread sand on each side, and
You gotta remember, Silver's Mills was the old stagecoach, and that's Jerry and Cheryl's house was the stopping
Oh.
point. Well, that's what Cheryl's always told me.
Ah.
So, I mean, it's literally an old horse path,
Yeah,
is all that is, so.
yeah. So you wanna see Phil and,
well, I would love to
Or-
have his direction on that.
Or if you can get Pike to come in and explain this difference.
Yeah,
can
he
do
would
the
probably
same
know,
thing.
yep,
well, he's going to tell you that you need to,
reclaim.
yes. But we know that there's
didn't
not
say that
enough
last year,
material
though.
underneath that to
Right.
You
reclaim.
can't
There's
reclaim
nothing
because you got
there.
all the rock.
That's
I know,
right.
I know. Well, no, he told me that in a vehicle when we were driving. He said, really, you need to reclaim this.
There's
Of course,
nothing there to reclaim.
Phil says there's nothing there to
Right,
reclaim,
and
so
that's-
you really,
And Steve said the same thing about that. He did that in Abbott. There was nothing there.
right.
So he just.
My
bumped it
other
up.
thought process that I heard was if you sat in there with an excavator and you beat that up and you could take the center surface and level it out to the sides and come up through, but my fear of that is knowing how many rocks are in there, you
They're
can't
gonna-
touch that center. I mean, you're
Right.
not gonna take the center and move it around.
No,
Because we're gonna have
it's
a,
too-
You're gonna have huge rocks.
you'd be digging down 6 feet and pouring that whole, and that's not an
Makeup.
option. I mean,
Yeah. Well, if you look at the pictures that I took last year when we were doing the culverts, I mean, you can see, I mean,
There's rocks.
there's rocks. And you can see the layer where they have tried to do reclaiming in the past, and I mean, it's only in the middle. I mean, it's not out to the edges because
There's nothing there.
there's nothing there.
I don't have an opinion, I don't know anything about it, so.
I'm just really thinking dollars and cents between setting in with an excavator, digging it out, hauling it off, putting the gravel back in, or just laying that with shim. I bet shim's cheaper.
Pike didn't give you a shim number over there yet.
Well, it's
They
not.
gave us,
It's a guess.
he gave me a 2.5 mile shim number,
Oh, okay.
total number of shim and overlay.
And you said we did the same thing in front of Irving's?
Yeah, I mean, that's other end was the same way when we did that. That was bad.
And it's been that way for
It's been
a decade.
11 years.
But you need to, I mean, if you look at that Silver's Mill, especially not next to Dan's driveway, but across the road, the other side of the road, I mean, your pavement is
Well.
broken off this far above the rut. So your pavement
Yeah, I
comes
know.
up and then it cuts down.
I don't know.
No, it just collapsed.
We had this conversation last year when we talked about doing this. This is what it was.
It's,
Oh.
yeah, so,
So I didn't know, I don't know, how much you can accomplish with shim. I looked at that, it looked like a coffin, an empty coffin. I mean, in fact, we joked that George New could lay in it. He was standing there.
You fit in there?
Yeah, it was
That's
that,
how big it
that's
was?
how big it was. And so I'm not, I just had no idea that you could shim a hole like that. I didn't know that that was possible. So that's my.
Well, I mean,
well, I don't think
I've
it's
heard-
highly recommended.
Well, I mean, I've
It's
heard
not optimal.
in the past when contractors have literally taken and gotten for the same scenario, coal patch, and hauled it in and tailgated it and used a grader and laid it out that way to fill roads like this.
Well, when I,
So I mean, there are, not saying it's
Yeah,
right, but.
last
Right.
year when we were doing something, and I think it was the fine line guy, he said if you're cold patching and then you're gonna pave, he says you don't want the cold patch under your hot patch.
Yeah, I remember that. That made
Yeah,
sense.
and I think it was the fine line guy. And when I talked to Phil yesterday, we talked about the cold mix versus the hot mix. And he says you don't want cold mix.
No.
He could explain, I mean,
I would
Yeah.
ask
Yeah.
Mr. Lawson, because he's the one that I heard is the one that did it.
Who used the coal patch?
out of fill
And tailgated, did a whole road. Tailgated it and graded it.
and then paved over it.
Nope, that was it.
That's it. That was
That's
the
what they
remedy.
did.
They used that instead of gravel.
They used that instead of hot, that's how they hot topped it. It was a road like ours. I have a pretty good source told me about it, so.
In what town?
It was when he was road commissioner. That was in Corona, right?
I don't think you've done road commission in Corona.
And we don't know that even would be cheaper. I don't know.
Correct, I don't have no idea.
But-
Yeah, I don't know what the cold patch
Uh,
prices are.
Because by the time you get to that conversation, you still got dump trucks, you still got equipment, you're still
Yeah.
paying for all this labor.
Yep.
And then, as we already know, that's the equally expensive.
And you have
of
coal
this.
patch. You don't have,
Yeah, no, the
Maybe.
hot patch is better.
Yeah.
Phil said that you definitely want hot mix. Especially, well, we were talking at McFeeters at the time, but
Right.
I know of the same
Then there's that gray
situation.
mix. I mean, there's all kinds of new mixes out there now.
Yeah, no.
but there's no way that we're doing all those projects without going back and asking for more money.
Well, it depends on how much you
Sure.
wanna do. I mean, if you're only
Good.
gonna do 1 mile, no, and do this and this and this, no. You can't do 2.2 miles of shim only. You're talking, I did calculate that, it's almost 150,000 for
Just the
2.2
shim.
miles of just
Just
shimming.
shim.
Just shim, and so that doesn't cover anything else. Any other,
The best case scenario, if you didn't, to do what we have right now, I think you could probably do the dirt and you could pave up past French's Mills and stop, and then shim the worst spots by Alderbrook and by Dan Halls with the money we have.
And,
But not-
are you gonna have any money to address McFeeters?
Probably, well, no, not under that side of it. I don't believe he would.
Can McFeeters wait another year?
I've heard catch-22s on what to do over there. If I've had 4 different people tell me different things.
Really?
I haven't rode up it, but they say you ride up it right now, it's not like it was when it was at,
It's settled.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Same
it is.
idea as what we dealt with over here.
There's that period there where it's moving and they move rapidly.
Yeah.
That's kind of what happened at Dan's place. It just gave way overnight. They actually heard it pop.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he said it was what, 6 o'clock in the morning or
Yeah.
whatever. They went out 'cause
Jeez.
they heard it in the house.
Wow.
Figured something happened down by the road. They didn't see anything, but they heard it. You felt it in the house when that shifted like that.
Wow.
Well, I'm open to a discussion on whether we want to ask for more money to do more work. Or do we just not, do we want to leave it this year? I think that there's money there.
Actually, I mean, to me, we're into May. We don't have anything scheduled to get started. I would like to see us start to run out of some money.
Get going.
We can commit that money pretty
Yeah.
quickly.
We can commit it quickly. The thing about the paving is, I wouldn't wanna ask them to come and then have them
That's
leave
what I'm
and have
getting
them
at.
come back.
If we're gonna
Right.
do
I think-
2.2,
sure,
we're gonna
I
buy
would.
2.2.
I wouldn't bother me a bit to have them come in right now, early in the season. You could have, within a couple of weeks, you could have them do that dirt section, and you could have them pave up past French's Mills when there's no other roads ready for them to do.
That we can do.
I wouldn't mind asking them to do that, and then get this other stuff done, if we can get more money, and have them hit us like they did last year at the fall on the other end of it.
I don't mind that either. I like that thought process. It finishes last year's project, which.
But I think,
we knew we
I
had
think
to
the
do.
contractor would like that too, because he can get this job done early. And
Then
then,
go do his big.
sure, go
big
get this
stuff.
other stuff done that he's already got planned, without adding on to them. And he could, cause he could add us in on the other side for Shem.
But keep in mind, right now, if we go with Pike, they have their facility open, will be open in Dover. He was pulling out of, Washington? Last fall to do that project. It was almost a 2-hour drive for their truck.
Yeah, no,
That
that
was
was,
because
we're
of
not
their
gonna do that.
scheduling, though, remember?
Yeah, that was both ways.
That wasn't just us.
No, I know.
But we're not gonna do
Exactly.
that.
We're not-
We're
that's
not
not
We
gonna
what
do
don't
we're
that.
wanna
saying to do.
be in November again.
No.
No, we don't have to be.
If we go back for more money, we can go back in July. And here's the plan. If they approve it, we get them to do it.
Correct.
If they don't approve it, we're not doing it.
But at the same time, you can let him know in July.
Absolutely. We're
And he
having
could-
a town
like he did
meeting.
last time, I mean, he was scheduling stuff on the fly.
And I would ask for money from McFeeters at the same time.
What would be really nice is to, if we're gonna go with this thought process, let's focus on getting, the ordinance fixed. And that
Well,
could be,
there'll be plenty of things you can go on to that.
You should also consider your food sovereignty ordinance too, if you're gonna do it, do it.
But we're definitely not doing that until we get a legal opinion. So, and I haven't seen any money for that yet, so.
no.
I can see that working.
I really have a problem trying to go to the town and ask for money
When we haven't even started doing any work.
No,
We
I
haven't
would-
used the
I-
money. Yeah,
No,
Let's,
but we know how much it's gonna cost, though. We
Doesn't
have the
matter.
bids.
No.
yeah. Then why didn't we ask for it at the
That's
town meeting?
exactly what they're gonna say.
Uh-huh, I know.
I wanna see work done before we worry about asking for more.
Well, so what do we wanna do though on the Silvers Mills Road? Do you wanna do the elevation? Or do you wanna talk to Jeff and Phil before you make that decision?
Yeah, because that's your binder questions, right? That was the conversations here between what size would be better.
Okay, so I will contact those two and see if they can come to the next meeting.
but I think we're of the opinion that the priority starts at Hartford Lane.
Mine, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we should finish last year's project. And,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
so
I would like to see at least go to French's Mills.
right.
Because that ties that
Yep.
corridor as being completed.
I'd like to go further than that.
I
if we
don't-
can.
I don't go as far as we
No.
can go.
Right.
With a certain, well, that's why I'm saying if we figure out how much we need to budget for what we wanna finish on Silver's Mills, then we know how much we can budget for paving.
Yeah.
and go as far as that will go. And then if we need to go back, we know if we need to budget for McFeeters and more
Sure,
paving.
if we have an appetite for more later in the summer, we'll go and ask for more money.
Yes,
But
that's
yeah,
what I would
I
like
would-
to see.
Yeah,
That
I
makes
totally
sense.
agree.
Okay.
Yep,
But even I think McFeeters could, over there, that might be a prime example to do like we did.
that was the original,
Yeah, that's
Just-
probably, cause that, you already got a culvert over there, it's probably gonna have to be done.
It's gonna have to be lengthened if nothing else.
Correct.
But-
And that little short section, that's not very long.
it wasn't inexpensive though. I mean, but the amount of money we put into that little area with gravel and, it was over 20 grand.
Oh, no.
It adds
That's what
up.
I'm saying, I think you're gonna be that same kind of bucket right over there.
Yeah,
But that's the same to me, if you could get that, and even if it's in dirt, till next year, at least get that part of that over there done,
Yes,
this year.
and maybe even ditching.
yeah.
Oh, ditching, yeah, definitely. You can
That's
start on
so
that.
Get
bad.
it prepped for.
But you're not gonna pave that next year. But you can't have, I don't believe we're gonna have that, I don't believe you're getting a lot of shim down on Silver's Mills, it's gonna have to be paved next year.
Keep in mind though, the overlay will only have to be an inch. If we do the 1.5 inches, the overlay will only have to be an inch, so it won't be as much. You want 1.25 inches?
I think so. You go down Silver's Mills right now and you look at our little bit of, we did 2 years ago? And you compare that to Dexter's? Dexter, what was theirs, do you remember?
I don't, but
was
I
thinking
know
theirs
that
was 2 1.5 inches.
Phil will be very helpful when it comes to
Yeah.
that.
And
The-
how it
Exactly.
pulls up
The
the
extra
wall.
20% in
That's what
Makes-
I'm saying.
expenditure doubles your road, it's
Right,
crazy.
the longevity of it.
Yeah,
I mean, that
And
was
that's so important.
Pleasant Avenue, they did 3/4 of an inch or an inch last year, and you couldn't even, that was
Right.
10 years old right now, it's all
Yeah.
cracked out,
Yep,
so.
yep.
Okay.
so do we have some direction there, are we
Yes.
good? Okay.
And then, yes. You will have a pretty lengthy meeting next time.
When is our next meeting?
The 16th. Mr. Howard will be in attendance as well.
I don't,
You don't think you're gonna be here?
I think we're gonna be in Boston. So.
When are you leaving, or will you know?
We would be leaving,
We
it's
can
not
discuss it
confirmed,
later.
right, it's not confirmed.
Okay.
But the procedure's on the 17th, so we'd be leaving here the night of the 16th to get down there prior to.
Sure.
the 6th.
So we could move it
We
a
can
day.
move it. If you-
Just let
Once
us
you know your
Yeah,
schedule?
yeah, I will,
You
as soon as I
let-
know,
yeah.
we just got that date today, so
Okay,
I will let you know.
And
But-
if we've got too much, you don't wanna hit it all in one, and we need to have another meeting, special type meeting to talk about the paving end of it, I'm open for that.
We could do
yeah,
that.
in fact,
Why don't
the
we
road
do
committee
that?
might love that, get everybody involved.
Yep.
Particularly that, maybe that's the one where we get Pike to come.
Yeah.
Just break that off separately.
Alright, so let's,
Cause I mean, really, the paving end of it, we need to get going, so. it
Yeah,
wouldn't hurt to do a
chop,
special.
chop.
Yeah.
alright, so.
And
we
I would
have-
do that before the 16th.
Well, that's what I'm saying, we have all next week.
Yep,
Perfect.
I would see what you can do to get Pike in here.
Either Thursday the 10th or Monday the 14th or
Whatever
something
works
like
for
that.
I will
Whatever
be
works for Pike.
available.
Yep,
I would,
Okay,
yep,
alright, so special.
And that will
And
carve
then
off
that-
a fair amount of discussion.
sure.
right, and then
Yes.
it shortens the other meeting as far as.
And I can have Phil come the same time,
Perfect.
and that
Perfect.
way,
The sooner the better,
Yep,
yeah.
okay.
the sooner the better, right?
Yes,
Move it along.
yes,
Move it along.
yes.
You know what, Phil, I would also, if he would take a minute and run down and look at that cemetery, I would love to get his reaction to that mess. I don't
That
think he's
might
gonna
be-
believe
I'm
it.
telling you, we gotta find the end.
Well, and
And
he
that's-
may
he
know.
may know
who
the
to
guy.
contact.
And I'll tell you, I wouldn't be
That's
afraid to
exactly
reach out to Haley's.
Yeah.
Yes.
Robbie he's been there forever.
Yeah,
There
that's a
might be
good
something
point.
there with Robbie.
You know,
He might at least have a number or a guy.
We need that agency, but
that's
anyway.
right.
Okay, that, yeah, I will, looks like we're all open
Good.
for that.
Alright, that sounds good to me.
Moving on to item 9, correspondence.
I don't have any.
Okay, moving on to item 10, request for additional agenda items. None. Item 11, executive session. I'd like to make a motion that we go into an executive session under 1 MRSA 4056 A, for discussions with Lois Jones.
Second.
Those in favor? It's unanimous. It is 6:10.